Hi there, and welcome to the recording of another episode of Search Marketing Scoop. So this is going to be recording episode 11 of Search Marketing Scoop, the podcast brought to you by Semrush that is available on all good podcast apps, such as the Apple Podcast app or different Android podcast apps, of course, as well as watching live. So this is a little bit of an informal hello, first of all, just before we start recording. So you get this bonus extra by watching live. So this is being broadcast live on YouTube, of course. So hopefully we're going to get a few people that just are starting to see this now as we've hit the publish button. So if you're watching live, tell us where in the world you happen to be. And perhaps tell us as well what is going on in your digital marketing life. What kind of challenges are you having just now? What kind of topics are of particular interest to you? And of course, what's your name as well? Hopefully we'll see that automatically from your chat name there as well. So in the meantime, while you digest that, obviously there's a little bit of a delay between me saying something and you being able to hear something and you typing something back. But hopefully we will hear stuff from people. Of course, we'll have more people that actually consume this broadcast, this content as an audio podcast, and that will be available fairly soon over the next few hours. We should be doing the editing, minor editing. I'm sure not much editing will be required from the quality of our guests that we're going to have. And we'll get that editing done and published as an audio podcast very soon indeed. So we're going to be talking about the latest paid search and SEO related news stories and how that impacts different businesses, including yours hopefully as well. And if you've got a story that resonates with you, then please tell us why it resonates with you and any kind of queries or challenges in relation to that particular story. We've got Dan Fitzgerald, who's just said hi. He said, hope to get ideas to deliver amazing results with no budget. Easy, right? Okay. Well, maybe for organic research, I think that Joe might have a bit more of a challenge with no budget Google Ads campaign.
That's right. I'll just ignore it. No, I'm kidding.
Katrina Maguire, hi Katrina. Launching a social media platform for non-profits, soaking up as much as possible. That's great that we've got a few entrepreneurs on board as well. It's so important just to soak up this up-to-date digital marketing information because with all these news stories coming out, it's important to think about how you can apply what has been announced to your own businesses and how you can perhaps even beat your own competitors to taking advantage of new features within Google Ads, new parts perhaps within Google's algorithm as well from an organic search perspective. So there's a few interesting announcements being happening. Katrina is saying she has a budget. So there we go. Perhaps that's a point in the conversation that Joe can come in. We'll introduce our guests properly just in a second, actually. So there's no point in me doing it twice there. But for everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Try and interact as much as you can in the chat because that just lets us know that people are there. People are obviously listening in. We have got Nada Zakaria. So she says, sorry to interrupt. Well, that's all right. She works at an agency developing SEO audits and recommendations using Semrush reports. So that's very interesting. I'm sure that Sherry will have some insights into how some recent updates in Google Search Console can perhaps assist you with your client reporting. So hopefully part of the conversation will help you with what you're trying to do, Nada. But let us get on with the recording of the podcast itself. So that was just a bit of an informal chat there. We've got Dean Brady saying he usually misses these live. Well, welcome, Dean. Hopefully seeing them live can add a little bit of value to it as well. It'd be good to hear your live feedback as to what you think of the show itself. So I am not properly plugged in here, actually. So give me 1 second, and I will get properly plugged in, because I have to give you some musical bumpers and background music, and it wouldn't be one of my shows if I couldn't do that. So I've got to make sure that that's properly plugged in and rearing to go. So let's open the correct app. I've got my iPad connected to my mixer here, and I'm going to click one button just to make sure I can hear. Yes, I can. I can hear the music. So that means that we're rocking and rolling and we're ready to go. Jerry Nichols, learning and absorbing with hopes for utilization. And Carlos Castro, really excited about this new episode. I've never missed one. Carlos, thank you so much for joining in again. Really great to have you here. So let us start the proper introduction. And really, we really will this time. And then we'll be ready to go. Google's Speed Update is now rolling out for all users. Google's URL inspection tool is also now available for all. Google introduces responsive search ads, and local campaigns will soon be available in Google Ads. Broadcasting live on the Semrush YouTube channel, this is Search Marketing Scoop, the Semrush show that brings together the top PPC and SEO folk to discuss the current search headlines and how they impact you. So, hello there, I'm David Bain. Let us meet today's guests. So first up, someone who's been a digital marketer for 20 years. She is the founder of Early Bird Digital Marketing. Welcome to the Scoop, Sherry Bonelli.
Hi.
Hi, Shelley. And next up, a man who, according to PPC Hero, is the 8th most influential PPC expert in 2018. That's up from number 24 in 2017. So quick moving up the charts there. He's the director of paid media and community at Granular. Welcome, Joe Martinez.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Joe. So let's get back to Sherry for story number 1, and that is Google's Speed Update is now rolling out for all users. So, Sherry, what's your thoughts on this one, and how slow does a website actually have to be to fall foul of this particular update?
You know, I will tell you that for most SEOs, this is a big issue. If you run a Google speed test on most of your clients' websites, you're going to find that the majority of them are more than 3 seconds. And Google has found that the majority of them are more than 15 seconds to load on a mobile device. So that's bad news right now, especially with the mobile optimization impacting rankings right now with this new announcement by Google. So there are a lot of things that impact speed. And unfortunately for SEOs, that means that you're going to have to get a developer involved in a lot of these situations, because a lot of them involve CSS, a lot of them involve minification of CSS, JavaScript, and all those types of things that are more technical than most SEOs are used to working with. And so, you know, when you're trying to speed up a client's website, it's really important that you take a lot of things into consideration. And so what Google's trying to do is make a great user experience for website users. And the majority of these people that are doing searches are doing it on mobile devices.
Got you. Okay. Now, your stat, 15 seconds for a web page to load for mobile devices was quite stark. I think Google uses 3G as a way of measuring that. Is that correct? And if so, is that fair?
Well, they want people to have websites that load within 3 seconds. And the sites, even when I did, for instance, a site speed test on Facebook, for instance, they were at the medium range. They weren't at the top range of speed. And so even big sites that should be moving fast aren't moving fast. So if you look at those local businesses, yeah, you're laughing. If you look at those local businesses that the majority of us SEOs are working with, most of them are going to fail this test. And so it's really important that you get a technical person, preferably a developer, that's going to be able to go in there and dig into that site that you're working with, no matter what the platform is, and one by one go through and see what Google recommends those changes be made. So the great thing that Google's offering is they're able to tell you where the issues are at. So if you run a Google speed test, Google will tell you where the issues are at, and they'll actually give you instructions on things that you can do to make those changes. And that's where, that's where you start. A lot of things can be fixed by just shrinking the size of images. Most people, when they upload images, just take those raw files, upload them, and they're huge and they take up so much space, and that impacts load time. So simple things like, smushing those files. And, if you're using a WordPress website, for instance, there are a lot of plugins that will actually shrink those files when you upload them. But there's also CSS script. It all depends on how those images above the fold, how all of that text comes in as the page is loading. There are so many different variables. And that's why what I recommend is if you're trying to get your load speed down, which is very important now for ranking, you need to get a technical developer involved with this. Most SEOs, even if they're in the technical arena, are not going to have the capabilities or the skill set to do this. And so it's really important that you have a developer that you can partner with to go in and find these areas where you can work on the CSS, where they can help you make those load times go down.
Great tips. Yeah, I've seen a lot of sites with raw PNG image files of about 1 meg or something like that,
Yep.
when they could be taken down to less than 100K using maybe 80 quality on a JPEG.
Yep, exactly.
Great.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So the best thing to do is do a mobile speed test. And literally, Google helps you. They want you to do good. They want you to get that load time down. So they will give you literally step-by-step analysis of your website and tell you where those issues are at. And a lot of it is technical. A lot of it goes into the back end of your website and where those issues are at. And so you want to find a developer to help you get those load times down. And it's literally going through check by check and making sure that you walk through those steps and make sure that you check them off as you go. And then that will over time help you load, help your load speed time. Yep. But it's going to be it's going to impact where you rank, and everybody has to take it seriously, including my site. I'll be the first to admit, everybody's site is going to be under scrutiny these days. So we all have to watch your backs. We all have to find a great developer to help us work on that.
Yeah, we'll never trust an SEO with a perfect site, because then you've got too much time to work on your own site.
Well, I know that's the whole thing. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, as SEOs, we're the last people to work on our site because we're busy helping others. So, I'll be the first to admit that. And, Joe will probably admit the exact same thing. I mean, we're the biggest culprit when it comes to this kind of stuff. But a lot of it truly is technical, and most SEOs don't have the skill set to do that because it's programming. And so many of those things that need to be fixed to make the site load faster do require a developer.
Great. Okay, we've got some interesting interaction going on in the chat. We've got a few people joining in, but more importantly, for those listening to this as an audio podcast afterwards, you should have joined us live, because we've got SEMrush giving away free t-shirts by the look of it. So come join us next time and watch this show live and participate in the chat. And you'll never know what goodies you might receive.
What about if you're participating in the podcast itself? How do you get that t-shirt? What's up with that?
I want a free t-shirt.
There we go.
You guys know where I am, so come on.
So over to Joe, I reckon, for story number 2 just now. And that is Google introduces responsive search ads. So what's this one all about, Joe?
Yeah, this is just another indication of just Google going more and more with their ad platform to shift into machine learning. It's less control for the marketers, and kind of Google taking more of that options, because this dynamic creative and everything is kind of an option that's already been on Facebook for a little bit, and Google wants to get into that realm to just make it easy for the advertiser, make it easy for someone who doesn't have years of experience, where they can kind of go in and do this ad optimization themselves and don't have to worry about really monitoring it that much. So what this is right now with the expanded text ads that are currently live, we get up to 2 headlines, and we have to do a lot of that creation manually. With the responsive search ads is now we can add up to 15 headlines and up to 4 description lines, and let Google kind of take control, and then they're going to use their machine learning to test a variety of combinations of all the different headlines and descriptions. So potentially you can have up to 3 headlines shown in an ad and up to 2 description lines show in an ad along with those 3 headlines. So there's no guarantee that the 3 headlines and the 2 description lines are going to show every single time. That's just part of Google's way that they're going to test the variety of different combinations. So you think about it, that's just tens of thousands of different ad varieties that Google can create and test depending on who that user is. So, we have the options to come up with that creative, still be good marketers, and let Google and their algorithm take care of what's really going to engage the user the most. And, right off the bat, with the beta test has been out for a couple months for a few selective agencies and partners. But already they're reporting at least, 5 to 20% click-through rate boost. A huge part of that has to be if you are getting all the headlines and descriptions showing, it increases the text ad space by 90%. That's what Google said during the keynote yesterday. So more space given to the ads, of course, we're going to see a bigger boost. And those ads initially, too, we're running against non-responsive search ads as well. So once it gets to the mix of where everyone is on the level playing field again, which will take a couple months because people are always hesitant to try something new, we'll actually see what the results are going to be. But personally, I like it. I would rather have more time spending on the creative part of it and letting it run and let Google do their thing. So I'm not going to pause any of the ads I'm currently testing. I still think the current A/B testing or ABCD, however many ads you're testing in an ad group, is still important. But I think it's been a sign for years already that this hands-off approach of where Google is going, this is another clear indication that it's still moving in that direction, moving strong. So you have to at least go in as soon as possible and create a responsive search ad to at least test in all your campaigns.
So I can imagine having 90% more ad real estate will certainly result in a higher click-through rate. But I guess what people need to be thinking about is ensuring that the 15 headlines, the 4 lines of description are as relevant and appropriate to be publishing as the original ad copy. Otherwise, you're going to be perhaps getting traffic, but traffic that might not convert quite as well.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that we're going to have to test out. And initially, we have the option to, since there are potential 3 headlines, is that we have the option to pin a certain headline in a certain headline position of 1, 2, 3. So we were talking about it earlier a little bit too, David, is that, if you have a headline that you're testing that says like plus get free shipping, it'd be really, really weird if the first headline says plus free shipping with no other introduction to your brand or value whatsoever. So, there's some control we do have over that, but then if you're automatically pinning a third of the options that Google gets to test, what impact does that have? And it's the answers that I don't have right now, and not many marketers probably do unless they were gotten the test really early. But then something that was interesting in the keynote that the Google rep mentioned yesterday, I forgot the name of the person who's actually speaking, is that they said if people are using responsive search ads and are actually filling out all the possible 15 headlines and all the descriptions, the more options we give Google, the better chance you have to show up in the search results, because they'll be able to attribute your ads to a user search query a lot easier when they have more options to choose from. So that's interesting. If you really want to see how it impacts your traffic and your impression share, is to try to fill in all those headlines and descriptions as much as possible. And for some of my clients who always just want more traffic, we already went in yesterday and this morning and started plugging those in like crazy to see if we see any traffic boosts.
So in the chat, William Rock is saying smart display was a cool idea, but it spent a ton of money for me with low leads. So specifically here, are we only talking about kind of the smart rotation of ad copy, or are we also talking about the automation of which landing page to display and the automation of where to display the ad?
Yeah, with the responsive search ad, we still have control over the final URL. So we do get to input where we are sending those users. Think of that from the same pinpoint of a regular text ad. We have control over the final URL as well as the display URL. It's just the main headlines and descriptions that are really getting tested out. And then comparing it to display, it's going to be tough because display is disruptive. We're getting in front of someone. We can't expect that same lead generation or conversion rate to be the same, especially click-through rate too, between display and search network. Those are 2 totally different channels. We got to look at those separate with different KPIs and different goals in mind.
Got you. Okay. So let's go over to topic number 3, and that's back to Sherry. And that's Google's URL inspection tool is now available for all users. So last week we covered an introduction to this with Pam Unks. So that was back in episode 10. You might want to have a listen to that one. But since then, it's rolled out to all users. So I'm sure it's something that we should revisit here. So Sherry, what's the value of using this new tool?
The value is really trying to figure out what Google and how they index individual pages on your website. And so when you go into Google Search Console now, you are able to figure out and enter in specific URLs on your website and find out how Google has those pages indexed and if there's any errors, if there are any issues with regard to indexing, whether or not they're showing up in Google's index. And it also shows any past history of how they have indexed it in the past. And so when you enter in a URL in Google Search Console for each individual website, so you're able to go into Search Console, select which property or which website you want to measure and check the URLs. And then you're able to enter those in and find out based on Google's last index. It's not a live search, so you can't see what's going on live, but based on their last index, how does that page rank? Or not rank, but how does it show up? Is it indexable? Is it found in Google's index? Are there canonical errors? Are there issues like that? And so one thing when you're entering in your URL, don't include the HTTP or the HTTPS. That will give you an error message. So leave that off when you're entering in your URLs. That's one tip that I would give you. And then if you find out that your page is not indexed for some reason, it could be a canonical error issue. And so then what you want to do is go into a fetch as Google. You can enter your URL in and then also submit that URL to be indexed by Google. And so it's a great way for you to figure out which pages, individual pages of a website, may have issues within the Google index.
Got you. Okay. So how often should someone be using this tool, and how many URLs should they be submitting on a regular basis?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, probably once a month would be a great recommendation. Depending on the site and depending on how many pages you have, it can be a pretty daunting task to go in and do that every month. You can generally go in by taking a look at Google Analytics to see which pages are obviously being indexed. But this is going to give you specific error messages or issues that individual pages have that you're not going to see in general Google Analytics data. So that's what makes this new tool really cool.
Great. Okay. And I guess that if you've got a massive site, if you've got an e-commerce site with over 1 million pages, what you do is you'd take examples of specific pages, maybe product pages, category pages, and just submit then. And that would probably be representative of the issues that you'd have. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you have like a template or a form or something that you have replicated and it's like a standard, page structure that you use, go ahead and submit those. And then you'll probably be able to see a pattern based on the type of errors or no errors that you're getting. Yep, definitely.
Right. Okay. A bit of a chat going on asking about the best way to optimize a landing page. And I guess an optimized landing page in this context is talking about getting a call to action on this. So that's possibly a Joe question there. Joe, I remember seeing a report by a quote by Brad Geddes saying that if you have a bit of a challenge with your paid search campaign, then 99% of the time it's going to be landing pages. What kind of landing page structure in general do you recommend if you're intending to get someone to take a call to action directly from that landing page?
Yeah, one of the best things you can do is just pull someone who's not familiar with that page. I mean, we get numb to it with our clients when we look at it all day, that we know where it is, we know where the phone number is, we know where the form is. Have someone who completely does not know that website, that business whatsoever, and have them play around with it and flat out ask them, like, what did you want to do on this page? Or what do you think the user would want to do on this page? And you'd be amazed how long it could take people to find something. So just some usability testing on, having that goal in mind of what do you want the user to do on this page, and then go see how easy it is for that user to do it. An important part that we do with landing page that we never take into consideration is what's the mentality of that user at that moment. If we're being from a display standpoint, or someone who's reaching out and visiting your landing page for the very first time, and we're shoving down a hardcore buy now message down their throat when they might be in discovery mode, that's one of the worst things you could do. It could be a huge turnoff, and they might not be ready to buy now, especially if you have a product that's potentially, I work with clients that have a 3-6 year long sales cycle. And if we're trying to get people to sign up right now, and that's not where they are in the funnel, that could be a huge turnoff too. So, a broad question of how do I optimize my landing page? There's so many moving parts to that. It's just figuring out who that audience is, what action do you want them to take, and providing that value that encourages to prove why you versus nobody else.
Great tips.
And David, I have a great example of a great landing page PPC example that I can give you if you'd like me to.
Go for it.
So for instance, there was a local hospital here in Cedar Rapids that was running a pay-per-click campaign based on a certain type of cancer. And the mistake they made is they were doing an ad based on the cancer treatment that they were offering at that hospital. So when people clicked on that ad, where do you think that page took them to? So when they clicked on that ad, it went to book an appointment now, schedule an appointment now.
Wow. Yeah.
Big mistake.
Yeah.
When someone's learning about a diagnosis that they just received, a cancer diagnosis, they don't want to book an appointment. They want to learn what treatment that hospital has, what the qualifications of the physicians are, all that type of stuff. So that hospital was wasting probably, I don't know, Joe, you probably know better than I, $20, $30, $40 per click, because people don't want to book an appointment. They want to learn more information.
Yeah,
so
it's
something
the nurturing.
simple like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. Especially that industry that is so emotional that you really have to speak to and where that user's mind is in that moment. I can't explain to it. I've never really dealt with a situation like that whatsoever, but it's got to be obviously a hard time for that person to be dealing with. You have to speak on where they are at mentally right now. And it's a great thing that hopefully that they switched it up and made it more emotional and have some sort of connection with what that user is going through at that moment, instead of just trying to get them to sign up to collect their check as they're going through the hardest moment of their life.
Right.
Great point. And I bet the majority of people focusing on designing landing pages will try hard to think about it from their perspective, maybe a colleague's perspective. But what you were saying, Joe, about making sure that you ask someone else, Dean Brady says, wait, talk to a human. And a lot of digital marketers won't do that. And I'm a big fan of using the site usertesting.com. And you can pay people for, I think, about $50 a shot to check your site out, and they'll create a video for about 10-15 minutes long, going through your site, just talking through their perception of using your site for the first time. And if you've viewed your site 200 times for, in the past couple of months, you're going to be blind to certain things. So get someone else's perspective.
Yep. Oh, that's a good site. I haven't heard of that one. I'm going to check that one out. Good.
Okay. Well, before you do that, the final story goes to Joe, and that is local campaigns will be available soon inside Google Ads. So, Joe, what will local campaigns offer?
Yeah, this was another one that was dropped in the keynote yesterday. This is for those e-commerce stores that also have a brick and mortar location with an actual showroom that you also want people to come into your stores and buy something. So now, we have, as online marketers, especially with e-commerce, we're always most of the time looking at what online direct revenue are we getting from our ad campaigns. Well, this new local campaign structure is going to also just pretty much push just store visits. Why I like it is that they're embracing the multi-channels, hence why AdWords is going to become Google Ads, because it's going to be more than just keywords and search. So these local ads can still appear on search, but they're also going to appear on display, Google Maps, your Google Places page, and as well as my personal favorite, YouTube. And the calls to action of these ads are not really buy now focused. They are more in terms of driving those users to those stores. So you'll see little icons of a car where you can get directions to the store. You're going to see in the call to action of the hours of when all these variety of locations are open, and get directions now, those type of CTAs. And that's going to be the bigger push. And because of this, since Google has made a change, or they're going to make a change within the new interface to make it a lot easier to claim your locations, for all the different places you might have. If you have, 20, 30, 100 different store locations, right now, I mean, it is a pain in the ass, but Google realized that, and they're going to make it a lot easier. So it's, again, this is one thing. It's fairly hands off. You just pretty much choose your store locations, give them a daily budget. You upload your ad creative, so you can do your ad text, your logo, video, again, because if you do want to do the YouTube part of it, and then machine learning, once again from Google, they're going to kind of take it and roll with it based on where that user is and their previous intent and also their location.
So why is YouTube your personal favorite for local campaigns?
Oh, YouTube is not just for local. YouTube is my favorite ad platform, period. Out of anything.
And for any type of ad, are you just talking about retargeting or just even just straight call to action?
Everything. For filling the top of the funnel, for remarketing, for getting your brand awareness out there. The reason I love it is that it's probably the only consistent channel where you can get free advertising. So if you have a YouTube video, you only get charged if the user watches the whole thing or at least 30 seconds of it, if you're doing those in-stream ads. So if I'm getting that brand awareness out there, filling that top of the funnel, we could see that how it impacts search volume if we're creating audiences and attributing them to our search campaigns. That's why I love it. And we'll be able to do it again from the local perspective now that they've added it to the mix.
And how can you measure the impact of something if someone skips something after 15 seconds?
We get engagement metrics that we can look at too. So I definitely want to look at view rate. The better my view rate is, the cheaper I'm going to pay for that view. If someone just watched 15 seconds of my 30-second ad and they skipped it, fine, I could still remarket to that user because they watched that specific video. But if they're not engaged, I don't have to. And if they're not engaged and they just gave me another view, I still don't pay for that view. It's just still brand awareness that's out there. And it's crazy how cheap YouTube has been for years and still nobody's advertising on it.
Interesting. Okay. And how do you make a decision on who to retarget to who have watched your YouTube video? Is that just anyone at all, or are you a bit more selective than that?
Initially, I'm selective depending on the budget and reach I want to hit. So I'll typically try to remarket to people who've watched maybe certain videos before and trying to get them to that next step, depending on what that video content is. I'll also create remarketing audiences off of users who watched 100% of any of my YouTube videos, whether it was organic or an ad. We can create remarketing audiences based on video engagement metrics or the earn metrics. So there's earn metrics that are also actions that are free. If a user watches one of your ads and then they like it, they comment, they share it, they subscribe to your channel, all those additional actions are free. We still don't pay for any of those additional views either, which is fantastic. But I can also create remarketing audiences from all those different actions too. And either I could choose to remarket them on search or display, or I can also remarket to them, to those users with more videos. So it's we look at where the user's engaging, and I'll hit those users first. And then if I'm not hitting my impression share and not spending the budget, then I'll widen my reach.
And finally, in relation to YouTube advertising, can you use the same content? Can you use the same video advertising content on another platform like Facebook advertising? Or are you better off to design the content just natively to use on YouTube? Are there certain things that are most impactful on YouTube and that don't particularly work on other platforms?
If you have the opportunity to create different video for the different platforms, I would strongly recommend doing it. Corey Henke is one of the best YouTube marketers I know on this planet, and he said it. He says it best, and I kind of take what he says, so that's why I have to credit him. We're distracted. There are so many other things to do on Facebook within that feed that we can lose that user's attention right away. We go to YouTube strictly to watch video. That's what we want to do. It's more a relaxed moment. We're willing to watch longer tail videos on YouTube. So that's why getting that user in their mentality at that moment and what they want to do, we got to get Corey on the show. He can have more time to explain it. Okay. But I think if you have that option, and also, I mean, Instagram has video, but the way people hold their phones on Instagram is different. So you want to have your video content to match that platform too. So if you have the option to switch it up, yes. If you don't, at least just test it out and see what it does on all the different platforms first.
Okay, I said that was the last YouTube question, but that was actually the last YouTube question from me. One more from William Rock, and that is, with remarketing, how do you control the third-party sites? Do you exclude them daily, or do you exclude them in some other way?
Are they talking about with just remarketing in general, or just YouTube?
Yeah, I would assume YouTube. So I guess with YouTube, obviously, you can select the third-party sites. If third-party sites are embedding videos, then you could target just them. Do you target just anyone at all, or how do you select the sites that your videos appear on? Sorry, William Rocks. He's saying AdWords and YouTube.
I mean, when I'm creating a video campaign, I look at specific website placements and specific YouTube video and channel placements first. So I have complete control of where my videos are being shown. Like I said, I get really specific first. And then if I'm not hitting that reach or frequency, or I'm not spending the budget that I have dedicated to these video campaigns, then I'm looking at broadening that reach. And as I broaden it out, we do get those placement reports on where my video is being shown. So that some of that is more reactive of, oh, no, my video should definitely not be on that channel. And that if it's from a remarketing standpoint, you're kind of controlling, you're letting the user decide, because we don't know where that user is going to go or what videos they're going to watch afterwards. So we can kind of control those categories based on, if it's too explicit, we can control those site categories as much as possible ahead of time. But then you just got to be reactive and look at your placement reports and just negate those out of your campaign targets.
Superb. Okay, well, that just about takes us to the end of the 11th episode. Just time for a single actionable tip from each of our guests. So it doesn't have to be related directly to what we've been discussing. It could be something else they've been focusing on recently in their work lives. So let's go back to Sherry first. What is your actionable tip?
So one thing that I've been talking about lately in a lot of blog posts that I've been writing is Google My Business. And so for most SEOs, if you have not logged into your clients or your Google My Business listing lately, or your dashboard, definitely go in there. Google has given you a plenty of opportunities now to enhance your Google My Business listing. So you can add photos, you can add posts, you can add videos, you can add Q&A. There's all sorts of things. And the more you make that listing, something that users are going to want to take a look at and users are going to want to engage with, that can help you rank in that local 3-pack. So if you have not visited your Google My Business dashboard lately, definitely go ahead and do that, and do that today. So that's my tip.
And you can find Sherry over at earlybirddigitalmarketing.com.
Great.
And Joe.
First, I love that tip from Sherry, because we just talked about the local ads, of how those ads can now appear on your business page. So if you have a good page that you're getting a lot of people organically to, then we can hit them up with a nice offer that you can only find with an ad. So it's a great 1-2 combo. So your SEO and PPC teams need to be working together.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Is that your tip, or have you got another one?
My other tip is just to embrace the machine learning. And we don't like some of these automated bidding or ads rules that are coming out. And a lot of the marketers who've been doing this for a while are scared or just angry, don't want to try it. I'm sorry, this is just where the industry is going. So you can either embrace it and start testing out early, which is my tip. Test it out early. You can do it small, that's fine, but test some of this automated stuff out and try to get ahead of it, because eventually it's going to be very automated. And if you're just an implementer, you're going to be pretty left behind. So embrace the change and dive into it pretty early.
Wonderful. And you can find Joe over at granularmarketing.com, and also a request in the chat for your Twitter handle. So Joe, what's your Twitter handle?
I am at Milwaukee PPC.
And Sherry, what's your Twitter handle?
Sherry Bonelli.
Superb. And I've been your host, David Bain. You can also find me over at digitalmarketingradio.com. So we will be recording the next episode, episode 12 of Search Marketing Scoop, at the same time, same place, the SEMrush YouTube channel, on Wednesday, the 25th of July. That's in 2 weeks' time, when my guests are scheduled to be Ned Poulter from Polestar Digital and Larry Kim from Mobile Monkey. In the meantime, thanks not only to Sherry and Joe for this episode, but also to you for tuning in and certainly interacting a lot in the chat. It was great to have you here. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the audio podcast. So head over to searchmarketingscoop.com to do that, and find the link there to your preferred Apple or Android flavor of podcatcher. But if you're already a Search Marketing Scoop audio podcast subscriber, tell us what you think. So a rating and review inside your podcast app would be very much appreciated. Until next time, be fantabulous and do one thing that scares you. Adios.